Hey,
Hello
welcome to What
there.
the Mother. I'm Boogie,
I'm Breezy.
episode number 4.
Woohoo.
We're rocking and rolling.
We are rocking and rolling. Big milestone for us. We
Yes,
hit 100 streams, not views, not streams. That is what it's called.
yes.
Yeah. Good
Right?
for us.
Streams?
I think so. We gotta get up on the lingo. I think it's a stream.
Only 999, 900,000
1,000 to
to
go.
go.
And then what happens?
The big million is, I
Ooh,
could
we
see it. I
become
could see
relevant.
it. I could see it. It's really, it's like really in the distance somewhere over there.
We're gonna manifest the shit out of this.
Well, I told you I was trying to advertise our Facebook page, and I am blocked for some reason for doing that.
That's
According to
because you're
Meta,
very bad on
according to
Facebook.
Meta, whatever Meta,
Hmm.
Meta,
Yeah.
I did or said something in 2021 that
Is
wasn't
that what
nice.
it said?
Something I've been restricted since then, and I haven't done anything, which is weird. I think it was because I posted something with music in it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I tried to debate that I wasn't making money on it, that it was just music in the background. And they were
Hmm.
like, no.
No, it doesn't matter. I had made quite a few videos when I was doing my social media stuff, and I liked starting with music. It's fun, it's upbeat, and it was just a fun way to start. And Facebook has gone back on all of my videos and just started muting things throughout the
Yes.
years. I know, but
Yeah. So you see me in a video and I'm dancing and there's nothing going on. I'm
there's
like,
nothing.
this looks so weird.
You just look like you're losing it a little bit.
Yeah. And I'm like, if I'm not making money on this,
Hmm.
what's the problem? Because it's getting exposure, right? I mean, people are listening to the song. Maybe they might not know the song. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I like that
Hmm.
song. And then they'll buy that song.
This is
So I'm
true.
helping you, songwriter.
Right, right. Because without us promoting their music, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah. I'm like, come
Yeah,
on.
I know. One song I used to play the hell out of was Blame It on the Rain by Milli Vanilli.
They didn't even sing that song.
I know, and I just loved it so much. But yet, you know, I got dinged on that.
I
So,
remember that music video. Ba, 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 ba,
ah,
ba, ba, baby.
that song is so good. I love it.
Or is that the same one, right?
Yeah. Oh, were you? I think you're thinking about the other one. Got my number.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I don't
I
know.
don't know. We're
You
gonna
know
go
what I
down the
mean.
rabbit hole. Yeah,
Either
exactly.
way, I remember just trying to mimic the videos of the
Yeah,
dance moves.
I know they were so good, and the braids. I loved it. I
Yeah, no
loved
one
it.
does good music videos anymore.
No, because that's a thing of the past. Nobody wants to sit and watch a music video. I think they're great.
I mean, I love them.
Me too. They're
Oh
a
well.
work of art.
Oh well.
Well, it was interesting. So this week, sometimes before we do our episodes, we'll touch base and like, hey, what do you want to talk about? And you had an interesting topic for this week. I like this one a lot.
Yeah.
And
Well,
what
I
is
didn't.
your
We didn't
topic?
talk about it the week before,
I know.
and then I was like, hmm. And then
Hmm.
I had a dream, and I was like, you know what? I want to touch on that, and and I don't want to make it melancholy. I don't want to make it sad, but
Right.
I did. Well, before I talk about that, Breezy and I met through a mutual friend who unfortunately passed away,
Hmm.
and she was a beautiful person inside and out, and unfortunately succumbed to cancer.
Hmm.
And cancer's a devil. Big middle finger to cancer.
Yep.
Um, And during COVID, my I lost my cousin, and she didn't die from COVID or cancer. It was an unfortunate accident. And I had a dream with her where, because we grew up like sisters, where I was trying to take a selfie with her, but when I looked at the camera, she wasn't in the picture. Only I
Oh,
was. And I kept saying, "Get in the picture," and she's like, I am," and I'm like, "I don't see you." And
wow.
she said, "I'm always here." And I
Oh,
woke up and I was happy, but so upset at the same time,
yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
like, so then I was like, hey, Bree's like, Breezy was like, let's, what do we want to talk about?
Mhm.
And I was like, I want to talk about like what you think of as far as when someone passes away. Like, I
Yeah.
can't think that's it, you
Right,
know?
right. Well, I have to say, I think, and I remember the other day, I think you were about to tell me that dream, and I'm like, no, 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 save it because I want
Yeah.
to hear it on here. And I think that is such a gift in a way, right? Like, I think that's a pretty amazing. There's so much in that dream that seems like, how could that not be a message if you believe in that? You know?
Yeah. I mean, we were
Um,
bowling and we used to bowl at the local bowling alley was by my
mm,
house.
okay.
But we were throwing the bowling ball onto a mattress and then it would bounce off the mattress and roll into the pins. And I kept saying, this is not how you bowl. Why are we doing this?
Hmm.
It was just, it was bittersweet.
Yeah.
I do feel like sometimes I sense people that are no longer around. My
Hmm.
father-in-law comes around. I do feel him.
Mm.
It sounds weird, but every time there's an event for my kids, he's there.
Mm.
I get cold, and he used to do this with his finger where he would tap, and I
Right.
always feel him tap my shoulder.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's a little creepy.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
told I was told by a psychic that I have a gift, but
Mm.
I don't like using it because it scares the shit out of me. So
Use your powers for good.
I was like, yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I always like, what happens to us? I mean, I have friends that are like, oh, we're all part of a matrix, and we're
Mhm.
actually, when we go to sleep, our body, regenerates, and we're part of a bigger picture. I'm like, so there's somebody,
Right, right.
like
Looking in and
puppeteer holding the strings, and then we're
mhm.
just, part of an experiment. I mean, do you believe in aliens? Like,
Right. Well, are you a religious person?
no.
Okay.
I do believe in a higher power. I do
Mhm.
believe in being good, pushing good out to get
Yeah.
good back.
Mhm.
I try to follow the basic 10 commandments, if that's something that I'm going to, that's kind of what I instill in my kids.
Sure.
Do as, do to others as you would have done to yourself type
Mhm.
mentality,
Don't be an asshole.
yeah,
Right.
obviously don't steal, don't kill, don't,
Sure. The big ones.
the
Yeah.
big, yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as super religious, no.
Right.
But I do believe there is a higher power of some kind. I
Mhm.
do believe
Mhm.
there is a God out there. I like to believe, I
Sure.
can't think that I'm going to leave here and then that's it. I'm just going to float around.
Right.
My little spirit's going to float around, bothering
Yes.
people
Yep.
in my life.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
I don't
No,
know.
it is. It's interesting because I grew up not in a super religious family by any means, but like many kids, like going to religion and doing communion and confirmation and all that, and growing up with those type of teachings from religion. And then when I got older, I started sort of making my own decisions about that. And I am not by any means a religious person either, not to, look down on anyone that is. I think that's
Yeah,
beautiful if you have that, but I just don't. And there was a point in my life where I really was thinking more, I guess, scientifically, where like, nope, when you're done, you're done. But then too many things have happened over the years where
yeah.
I'm just like, nah, there's something else. There's something else. I in 2020, it was right before COVID really hit. My stepmom was in the hospital and she had blood cancer. And for her last week there, I was by her side, every day in the hospital. And the night before she passed, she went into this stare that I hear people talk about like before someone's about to pass away. And it was like she was looking through me and I
Hmm.
had said to her, "What are you looking at?" And she said, "There's a little girl here asking me to play, and isn't she beautiful?" And my stepmom had lost a daughter when she was 5 years old who had
Wow.
passed away. Yeah.
They say that people
Yeah.
they come get you.
Right. Right.
You
It's
know.
like, come with me, I'm ready, And so I don't know. I'd like to think that there's that
Yeah.
after this, and that you're
Yeah.
reunited with people and all of that.
I
Um,
also like to think in, some type of reincarnation. I always said I want to come back and I want to be a man. I want to know what it's like to have a penis.
I wasn't expecting that. Okay, let's go
I told
there.
I've told my husband, hey, if we're going to be together in the next life, you're going to be
Sh-
my wife, and
Yeah.
I want to be the husband.
Oh, how did he feel about the possibility of having a vajayjay?
I don't know if he was gun ho about that.
Mm.
Especially he knows what I've been through to have my children. And I'm like, he's probably like, oh, no, no, thanks, babe. But I told him, I'm like, I want to know what it's like to have
Yeah, I think that's fair.
penis.
I think that's
Be
fair.
able
I
to
think we
pee
come
wherever
back.
you want,
Right.
scratch your balls.
Hmm.
Hey,
I was
the
on the
male
phone.
orgasm. I want to know what it feels like.
Oh, wow. You really put some thought into
Yes,
this.
yes. I'm like,
I thought
what would
about
my
it.
name be if I was a man?
Hmm.
What kind
I
of
have
person
thought
is
about
Sean?
it
Call me Sean.
when it comes to the whole bathroom thing. Like when I'm in the car and I'm like, oh my God. And I've heard stories from the men in my life, all the men about, oh, there's a water bottle and they just pee in a water bottle
Yeah.
as they're driving. What?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. I mean, I probably would
Yeah,
get pee all over the floor, but I mean,
probably.
being a sports mom, I'm tired of porta potties are disgusting.
Oh, God.
And sometimes there's not a porta potty,
Oof.
you know? I get a
Oof.
UTI or a kidney stone
Don't
because I'm holding it.
don't even
Not
talk about
fair.
it.
So I want to come back as a man.
I love it. I love it. Today, we're getting a little off topic with this, but I just have to share. Today, I was at like a leadership meeting at work
Hmm.
for all the directors, and we're at this other location. And I needed to use the restroom, so I go into the bathroom, and it's a unisex restroom, and they have stalls, obviously. And I'm sitting there, and I didn't check if there was toilet paper before I started, and there was no toilet paper. And now I'm sitting there and I'm like, do I make the run for it? Like, do I open the door, make the run for it in the other stall with my pants down?
Oh, I've
And
done that.
yeah, but I'm at a leadership meeting with my boss, right? And like, it's a
Only
unisex bathroom.
your ass is out and you're
My
running to
ass
the
is out.
bathroom.
Yeah, I was wearing a
Oh,
shirt that didn't cover. You know what
what'd
I
you
mean? Like,
do?
I I was like, let's go. And I just shimmied out. I ran out and they had rolls of toilet paper on the windowsill. I just grabbed that shit and ran back in. I was like, oof. 5 seconds later, someone walked in. I was like, oh, good Lord. That would have made a fun story. That would have made a fun
I
one.
mean, I
But
don't know about fun.
interesting for sure.
Like, hey, your coworker? Yeah, I saw her hoo ha while trying to go to the bathroom.
I saw her eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just think about stuff like that as far
Mhm.
as what happens. When I leave my children.
I know.
Am I gonna like be like Casper and just hang around their house and should give them signs or am I gonna come back as their kid or come back as
Oh,
someone in their life? You know what I
oh,
mean?
that's weird. That's
Like
weird.
there was a story I read where the kid says to his mother, and he must have been like 3 or 4 years old. He goes,
Hmm.
"Yeah, I came back for you. I'm your mom, or I'm your grandmother." Like he said he was his
Yeah.
wife's grandmother.
Yeah.
He's like, "Excuse you," and he
Hmm.
even knew like who the lady was and described her. And he never met the woman,
Right.
so you never know.
No, I've seen videos like that with kids that they're young and they're describing how they've died. Or
Yeah,
like I remember there was one of a young boy who described like the events of September 11th, and he was same thing, like 3, 4 years old and describing it in like detail and talking about how he was there.
yeah.
That's crazy shit.
I mean, it's crazy, but I mean, it's possible. I don't know. Like, I remember there was an article, kids coloring, and he looks at his mom up, and he goes, "Yeah," he goes, "I'm glad I came back for you." She's like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm your
Mhm.
grandmother." Like, and then just continue to color.
Right. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, he's like, "Yeah, I died a while. I died a while ago," and the kid mother's like, "Excuse you," you
right.
know,
And she's
like,
freaking out, and he's just like, that's wild.
yeah. I mean, I have a half sister. She's my sister. She's
Mhm.
a lot younger than me though. She was a little kid, and my mother lived in this house in Long Island that shit was haunted. I don't care what anyone says.
Mhm.
It was built in like late 1800s, maybe. I don't know. There was a part of the basement that had like dirt,
Hmm.
I was like, bodies are there.
100%.
This was like a poltergeist type shit.
Oh,
Things would go off, lights. I remember one time my brother said he felt someone on top of him while he was laying. I mean, I didn't enjoy staying there, just put it that way.
yeah.
I remember one time one of her toys went off while I was watching her and I chucked
Oh.
that shit in the
Oh.
backyard. And it was a toy that you had to really press hard.
Mhm.
And it went off and I went, ah! And I just threw it out. I just threw it out.
Yeah.
I just threw it into the
I would have
backyard.
taken a sledgehammer to that shit. No way.
So she was
Mm-mm.
drawing a picture of a man. She must have been like 4 years old. And I was like, who the hell is this guy? And she's like, it's my friend Hubbard.
Hubbard,
Yes. Like, that's not,
not Hubert?
no. She said Hubbard. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was you, whatever it
Sure, sure,
was.
sure. Mhm.
He was dressed, she dressed him in military clothing, but like
Oh.
old style military. And I was looking at, and I remember I'm sitting in the kitchen with my aunt. And I was like, how do you know him? And she's like, oh, he's my friend. And I'm like, okay. She goes, he works for the president.
Oh.
And at the time, I think it was Clinton. And I said, Clinton? And she looked at me. She's like, "Ah, Lincoln."
Oh.
And I went, what?
That's
She was 3. How the frick does she know about Lincoln?
crazy. That's crazy.
So, of course, being my aunt who's a rational thinking person, like, you gotta get holy water. We don't burn sage. And I just remember being like, Lincoln? What?
Yeah, that's wild. That's
Yes.
wild. Well, they say that like children, right? Young children
Yeah.
and dogs or animals are really susceptible to that. When my daughter was really little, I think she was like talking here and there, and we used to say all the time that she could see Mike's mom, her dad's mom who had passed, because we would like talk about Nana Angie, and my daughter would look down the hallway and like wave
Yeah, I
and
believe it.
carry on as though, and it scared the crap out of me. My ex's mother was truly one of the most gentle, kind-hearted human beings, but I was scared shitless. It creeped me out.
Yeah.
But and then when my stepmom had passed, my son was very, very close with her, and he would tell me he could see her in the corners of rooms.
Yeah. Why is they're always in the corner?
I don't know.
Because when we first moved here, my son couldn't sleep because he said the garbage people were bothering him.
What does that mean? Maybe he
And
just
I
means the
said,
sanitary truck in the morning. Sanitary?
sanitary.
No.
Sanitation truck?
Thank you.
Yeah, there was no
Sanitary.
maxi pads in the corner of the room. No. So I was like, the garbage people? I'm like, what the hell's that?
Yeah.
And I said, well, what do they look like? And he said, they look dirty and they look
Ooh.
like I guess like they had maybe been in a fire. So then I'm like, great. Did somebody die in this house or this
Yeah,
area and got
sure.
like in a fire? Because he
Yeah.
said they had like black, like
Oh,
like smoke.
Jesus.
And I bought some sage. I put it in a pot. I lit it up, and then I walked around the house. I said, look, I don't give a f
Mhm.
who you are, where you came from. This is our house too. Leave my son alone, and I won't exercise you out of this house. Hang out, but leave him alone. And
Yeah.
then, sure enough, after that, he slept. He said
Really?
they didn't bother him anymore.
Interesting.
I mean, if a normal person was walking around and saw me with this pot, and I'm literally going, get the fuck my son alone. Leave my son alone. Or I will get a priest, a rabbi,
Right.
a reverend, and you will be out of here.
All the holy water.
Yeah, I said you could stay
Wow.
here, but you got to leave him alone.
Right.
And after that, he was fine. It was weird.
That's crazy.
So I don't know. I mean, a part of me, I want to believe that there is either a place where you go and hang out with your loved
Mhm.
ones.
Mhm.
A part of me, I mean, I've had family do the past life regression and find out that
What?
they had past lives. Yeah.
What is that all about?
I don't really know the whole details of it, but
Is it like you go to somebody and they tell you who
you
you
go to
are?
somebody and you're kind of like in a meditative state.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
That's
And
very interesting. Have you ever gone to a psychic or a
yeah,
what's with my words? I was gonna say mediator. No. Medium
I need a lawyer and a mediator.
with this
No, I've gone to a
sanitary talk?
psychic,
Yeah.
and a lot of stuff that she said
Mhm.
was going to happen happened.
Mm.
Like she told me that I was going to have someone pass, and when I was in my late 40s, and it
Yeah.
was going to rock me to my, it was going to really affect me, and it was my
Wow.
cousin. She
Yeah.
told me that I always worry about money and finances because, I didn't have it a lot growing up.
But who doesn't worry about money and
Well,
finances,
but
right?
she knew that I didn't have a lot growing up,
Mhm.
but that I would always be okay. Like,
Yeah.
and she told me about that I was going to have two kids.
Mhm.
Yeah, just a lot of stuff that she said.
Hmm.
And she even said you're very sensitive to spiritual things. You just are afraid of them.
Right, right.
And I was like, yeah. She goes, things break around you. And I'm like, what does that mean? And then I realized what she was talking about. Like I had a glass shatter in my hand, and I didn't even get cut. Yeah, it
Girl, are
was.
you poker dicey? Poker dicey.
Are you poltergeisting?
What you
Girl, what you doing? You poltergeisting?
That's crazy.
Yeah. I have a
I
friend
had
of
a
mine will
glass
tell you,
shatter.
she'll
I
tell
had a
you the story about it. I mean, we were young, and
yeah.
we were doing, she convinced me to do a seance in my room.
Wait, who did?
My friend growing up,
Okay. With the
Yvonne, if
Ouija
you're
board?
listening, no, we
Oh.
took two cups and we were going to connect them and we would get the soul of Houdini. Do not ask me why I decided to go along with this.
Sure.
And just before the cups met, they shattered in our hands. And we didn't get cut. We just started screaming bloody murder. My mom comes running in. You broke my glasses. And we're
Oh.
like, oh. And then her and the other friend leave my room and leave me with the spirit of Houdini in my room. I couldn't sleep that night. It was insane.
And then you lit the sage and you threatened
Well, at the time, I
Houdini.
didn't know about Sage. I think I was like 11 or 12. And
Right.
we reconnected, her and I, and she remembers the story. She goes, oh, holy
Well,
shit, you remembered it.
I think anybody would remember that story.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. And I'm
That's
like, what?
bananas.
Yeah, I remember just being like, they left my room, and I'm in my room now with this,
With Houdini.
with Houdini probably, or some kind of spirit. And I could
Right.
not. When I tell you, I had the covers up to here, and when you're
Mhm.
like laying in bed and you're like,
Mhm.
I couldn't sleep. Yeah, it was
Oh
crazy.
god, that is crazy. Yeah, I went to a what's it called? A medium psychic. I don't whichever. After my stepmom had passed, my sister-in-law was like, "Bree, you have to go to this one guy. Call him up, make the appointment. You don't tell him anything." I'm like, okay. And I went and he rocked my whole it was so I recorded it and it was so crazy how accurate he was. Like he started telling me that there were two people there. He named my at the time my husband's parents by name and was talking about their personalities and was talking about my nephew who was the same age as me, but he had passed away and talked about how he was found. And then
Wild.
I know, I was so kind of shaken by it that when he had said, there's someone very close to you in your life that starts with the letter R, and your stepmom is always around this person. And I sat there and I was like, I have no idea who that is. I don't have anybody in my life with the letter R except my daughter,
I was ready to say,
right?
what?
I know, but I was so
You're like,
shaken by it.
who?
I was like, "R? I nope, not
Oh,
that.
oh.
My firstborn? Nope." But
I mean,
yeah, it
imagine
was
how it feels to be someone like that, though. Like
I
that's,
know.
like you have that gift. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know if I would be like happy or scared.
I know you have to think that it's I don't know. I feel like it would be exhausting, right? Like to have that energy or whatever that is.
Well, you know what it reminds me of Ghost. Remember when he's just
Oh,
harassing? Whoopi
Yes.
Goldberg, you know,
Yes. Such a good movie.
trying to sleep when he's singing Henry VIII, you know, I would
No.
be like, get the hell out of here,
Yes.
you know?
Henry the Eighth I am.
Yeah.
Henry.
So I don't know
Yeah.
if I would appreciate that or not, or if
Mm,
I'd be like, ah, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Like,
yeah.
leave me alone, you know?
Right. Right. Yep.
So I don't know. I don't know.
Mm. So besides a man, is there anybody else you'd like to come back as, or an animal?
A rich man,
Rich man. If I
an
were rich.
animal.
Yeah.
I guess it's because I'm a Leo, maybe a lion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
Or like something that flies.
A bird would be. It would be a
Yeah.
bird
Yeah, but
or a
I didn't know what
pterodactyl.
kind of bird. I
Hmm.
don't know what kind of bird.
Hmm.
Maybe a cardinal.
Sure, we'll go with that.
You know, I mean, they always say when you see a cardinal, it means your loved ones are close.
That's true.
Um, I don't know.
Do you believe in signs? Do you
I mean, I,
believe in
I mean,
like
I like
signs
my cat sleeping over here. I wouldn't mind coming out as back as a cat,
as a cat? Sure.
but I would have to have a home. You know, I don't want to be a stray cat.
No. I don't know. You're kind of scrappy though. I feel like you do good on the streets. So yeah,
Um,
the
do I believe in
signs though.
signs? Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
So I
I've,
had
I've smelled things, felt things,
sure.
seen things. Yeah,
Yeah.
where I'm like, oh, you know, my son had a tournament once. Real quick, I'll tell you,
Yeah.
and it was like down to penalty shots, and
Hmm.
he's a goalie, so it's just stressful. And I'm standing there, and I'm like pumped up, and the next thing you know, and I'm not. It wasn't a cold day; it was an average day, and
Hmm.
I got so cold, and then I started to feel teary, and I looked at my husband. I'm like, "Your dad's here,"
That's
and he looked
crazy.
at me like, "What?" And I was like, "Your dad's here.
Oh,
They're gonna win." And he looked at me, and they won.
wow.
And then the goalies had a shoot, and it was my son's turn, and well, first he blocked the goal from the other goalie, and then it was
Hmm.
his turn, and I was like, he's going to get it in, and all the hairs on my arm stood up, and
Whoa.
he shoots it in, and I start crying, and I'm not a crier.
Oh. Yeah, me neither. Me neither.
Yeah, I'm not a crier, so I was just like, oh my god, and
Oh.
I was like, and I told him, I told my son, I'm like, your grandfather was here, he was watching, he was cheering you on. Oh my god, you know, it was just wild. Like, so I've gotten signs like that, you know.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah,
I the other night, so recently, and you know about this, I had someone that was just special in my life had passed away. A young man in his 20s that was one of the first people that I worked with autism, and I hadn't seen him in quite a while. But you know, when you just meet those people that touch your heart and that are like
yeah,
in your life, even though they're not physically in your life, because you know life goes on and you kind of go separate ways. But he had passed, and I had written this thing on Facebook and talking about when he was younger and how much he loved Winnie the Pooh and like all the little people from Winnie the Pooh, you know, all the Eeyore and Tigger and all that. And the other day, I was sitting at home and my cat, whose name is Winnie, and I call her Winnie the Pooh, she had something in her mouth. I'm like, what are you doing? She's running around like a lunatic. And it was this bracelet that his family gave out at his service, like one of the little like rubber bracelets, and it had his name on it.
hmm,
She's running around like a lunatic with this thing in her mouth. And I just sat there and Connor was such a huge fan of animals and Winnie the Pooh. And here's my cat, Winnie, running around with Connor's bracelet. And I'm just like, if Connor was here, he would be loving this moment. And
yeah,
of course, now every time I go into a store, all I see is Winnie the Pooh. And I know it was probably there to begin with, but it makes you just kind of open your eyes a little bit more when you're thinking of someone. So, you
yeah,
know, for anyone who's not watching, I have a Winnie the Pooh coffee mug that I just had to buy the other day because it reminded me of him. But yeah, it's like, you know, I don't know whether it's signs or coincidence or I'd like to think there are
yeah. There's
signs
something in
though.
the universe, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, even like a song will come on the radio, and it will remind me
Mhm.
of a friend that I lost,
Yes.
and it was her
Yeah.
favorite song, and then I'll start singing it, and I'll remember her, and I'll think of
Mhm.
her, and I'm like, you know, when I see you next time, we're going to be dancing in the clouds, you know, things
Mhm.
like that, or
Yeah.
you know, just A video came up recently of a friend of mine. She lost her husband, and he was in the background of it. And I sent it over to his daughters, and she was like, "Oh
Mm.
my God, I forgot how he sounded, and this meant
Yeah.
so much to me." Things
Mm-hmm.
like that. And you know, I, even today, I took my son to the orthodontist because I feel like that's all I do is go to the orthodontist.
Right,
And
right.
he's like, "Am I going to get cancer?" And I'm like, "Whoa."
Mm.
And it's because, a few kids his age have lost parents to
Sure.
cancer. And, it's, it's, uh, it's a fear. I get
Yeah.
it. And I remember being his age, worrying about losing my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And you just don't know what your life is going to,
I know.
you don't know how many chapters of your life. You could have
Yeah.
a couple, or you could have a couple hundred.
Right.
Well, not a couple hundred, but you know what I mean.
Well, sure.
But just the basic gist of it's like tell them, I said, I don't know. And you just got to live your life the best you can, be the
Mm-hmm.
best person you can be, and just give out love. And hopefully you'll get all that back.
Yeah.
And he was like, and get checkups, right, Mom? I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
and get your checkups. And I told him, I'm like, your father and I, we get our checkups. We make sure that we try to stay healthy because I want to
Mm-hmm.
be a long time in this earth to pester you.
Sure.
My job.
I mean, that I was going to say, that's our job. Are you afraid of it? Are you afraid of death?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I think it's the unknown and the not
Mm-hmm.
being with my kids that makes me
Yes.
upset a little bit.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm living a good life right now, and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully my next life will be just as good. I
Mm-hmm.
think, maybe I was a son of a bitch in my first life, and
Maybe.
I'm coming back as a nice new boogie. Or maybe I suffered a lot in my first life, and I'm coming
Sure.
back, and I gotta say I have it pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I have good friends, good family, great
Mm-hmm.
kids,
Yep.
supportive spouse, puts up with
Mm-hmm.
my shit.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and you have a lot of shit to put up with.
Hey, hey. But I just I just don't want to suffer.
Right.
And I don't want anyone I love to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be like, hey guys, I'm going to go take a nap, and
And you're out.
I'm 100 years old, and I'm going to lay in my bed, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the worst thing and I don't want, and I never want to see, or, I've seen people lose children. I would never want to wish that on anybody.
Yeah.
You never want to bury your child.
No. You know what? It's interesting that you say that because a different perspective on that is when Connor had passed away, he was only 29, and his mom and I were talking, and then I was talking to another friend who also has a child on the spectrum, and they said, you're not supposed to bury your children. But when you're a special needs parent, not that you want your child passing away at the age of 29, but his mom had said, you know what? Connor lived his life. He wasn't getting married, he wasn't having children. He had a beautiful life. And now she never has to worry about what happens to him
If she's
after she's
gone.
gone,
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
like,
that's tough. That's tough.
that is tough. And I said to her, I said, you're right. Like for his entire life, you took care of him and you knew that he was okay. And she had given me that perspective of if she had passed before him, he wouldn't understand where she went. And she's like, so if I have to grieve him, I'll take that. And of course
Yeah.
she's telling me that and I'm like a mess, but it's
Yeah.
it's all perspective. It is.
Yeah.
It's like, you got to live your life and love the people who are around you and try to enjoy what you have because you never know.
Yeah.
Now
One
that got
one
deep.
last quick funny story so we can leave it
Do
off on
tell.
a
Mhm.
fun note. When my
Mhm.
son broke his leg last year,
Sorry.
he had to be put under, and he was
Uh-huh.
on ketamine,
Oof.
special K, yo.
Uh-huh.
And when they adjusted his leg, the doctor comes out and he's like, "Oh my God, your son is hilarious." I said, "What?"
Mhm.
And he's like, "He's been singing the Bad Boys theme song over and over
Oh,
and over."
did you get video?
Some, but
Mhm.
I was so concerned with like with making sure he was okay that I didn't even take my phone out. I did record a little bit of him
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
singing, but so I walk in, and he's in laying there. He's like, "Bad boys, bad boy," and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh," I'm like, "We haven't even seen that movie." So I wasn't sure where he got it from. But
Right.
then he told me something which I thought was wild. He told me he saw his grandmother, my husband's mom,
Mhm.
passed away last year, about a year and a half ago.
Mhm.
He saw her on a cloud with Kobe Bryant.
Hmm.
And he said, he goes, and I said, hey, Kobe, why are you hanging out with my grandma?
What?
And I said, and what did he say to you? He goes, he said, you're going to be all right, kid. And I said, thanks,
Mhm.
Kobe. And he goes, and grandma, she looked really good. She looked
And then she
happy.
did a layup.
He said, she looked happy. And then I was like, all right, thank you, grandma.
Right.
And she's like, I love you and bye. And then that was it. And I was
Mm.
like, oh, okay. So, grandma's doing good. She's hanging out in a cloud with Kobe Bryant.
Love it.
I don't know where grandpa was, but maybe he was on the cloud golf course. I don't know.
Sure. And grandma was
But
trying to get a little with Kobe.
I was like, hey. Um, but, I just thought it was funny because it was like really random how it came out of his mouth. And he was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
he
yeah.
said it as a matter of fact.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, he was also on Special K. So
But he said it like he was
but he said it like he meant it.
like he meant it. And then,
Yeah.
then he proceeded to tell me he was hungry and he loved us. And,
Sure. Sure, sure, sure.
after
And then
that,
once
like,
he started saying, "Mom, I love you so much," then you knew he was just out of his
then I
mind.
was like, God
Right.
damn. But, I mean, no matter how long your life is, just live a good life. That's all I got to say. I don't know.
I love it.
You
No,
know?
it's true. What are you going to do, right? Walk around being miserable your whole life? No.
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 And, I did give our email out for ideas and suggestions, and I haven't gotten anything except spam.
Her feelings are hurt.
My
Go ahead,
feelings
give it out
are hurt.
one more time.
What the mother NYC at gmail.com. Come on.
Mm. Send her feet pics.
Ew, no,
No,
no, no feet pics,
no,
please.
no, please.
Or I'll
I'm
send
gonna send
mine
you.
and you don't want to see mine.
I'm gonna send you feet pics.
Please don't.
All right, lady. Well, listen, we're gonna wrap this puppy up.
Yes.
It's almost 7 o'clock, so that means I better start dinner.
Oh, you got to work on making a lot of food so you have leftovers.
I know. I'll get it eventually. I'm gonna be 47 next month, so eventually I'll get it. But
I know. Your
tonight's not the
birthday's
night.
coming up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll
All
talk
right.
about what we're going to talk about next week. We'll figure it out, and we'll see you next week.
That's
Be
right.
good.
In the hood. We're gonna figure out a way to end this. Be good in the hood.
Be good in the hood,
Yeah.
and give out good karma, or I'm going to tell your mama.
Oh, there you go. All right. Bye.
Bye.